Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Here's a look at our top stories tonight. The Ombudsman calls for faster action on illegal structures and pavement obstruction. Hong Kong's population falls for third year in a row. And a white teenager in the United States is jailed for life without parole for shooting 10 people to death. The Ombudsman has slammed the Buildings Department for not taking quick action against unauthorized structures in the new territories. The government watchdog also called for more effective action against street obstruction. Janice Lowe reports.
It is often frustrating for pedestrians to make their way through pavements at hygiene black spots. The problem was highlighted as the Ombudsman slammed the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, or FEHD, for not dealing with street obstruction more effectively. Between 2018 and 2021, hygiene black spots on Shunning Road and Yikok Street in Sham Shui Po were inspected at least 4 times a day, but pavements continued to be blocked. Enforcement action by FEHD officers at the Mong Kok Flower Market, another black spot, was 7 times more than in Sham Shui Po, although the two areas are only 2 kilometers apart. The watchdog said reliance on fixed penalty tickets did not deter offenders. FEHD officers now conduct joint operations with police, but the Ombudsman said they should get more teeth.
The FEHD should be given the legislative power to also detain and seize and confiscate obstructive goods like the police. So it doesn't have to depend on the police all the time in terms of such enforcement action, so that they can have a more flexible approach.
The FEHD said it accepted the Ombudsman's suggestions. The watchdog also slammed the Buildings Department for failing to get rid of unauthorized structures on village houses. Almost 5,400 removal orders were issued between 2012 and 2021, but 37% of them were not enforced.
If the compliance of the removal order is not as high as expected or should be, then there sends a message that whether that prosecution and enforcement policy is credible.
Chiu advised the department to review its strategy for credible enforcement. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's population has declined for the 3rd consecutive year. Official figures show the number of people in the city slid from over 7.4 million in 2021 to 7.33 million at the end of last year. That marked a 0.9% annual drop, or 68,300 people. Natural reduction accounted for roughly half the decline. There were over 62,000 deaths, while births were at a record low of 32,500. The net outflow of Hong Kong residents was 60,000, while over 21,000 one-way permit holders arrived. The figures included the movement of Hong Kong residents in and out of the city for various purposes, including work, study, and immigration. Lawmakers and the government have expressed reservations on making Chinese history a compulsory subject at the senior secondary level. But they agreed on the importance of enhancing students' understanding of China. Joanna Ho reports.
Lau Chi-peng moved a motion without legislative effect yesterday, stressing the importance of cultivating a sense of national identity among secondary school students. But many of his legislative colleagues had reservations.
Most members mentioned that the motion is not really realistic because we don't have sufficient qualified teachers, and then we're not able to adjust the curriculum, and the pressure on students is high.
Another lawmaker also expressed concern about the burden on students and the education system.
5 years ago, fortunately, the government corrected itself and decided to set Chinese history as an independent compulsory subject at a junior secondary level. We haven't finished the 3-year cohort cycle. The citizenship and social development subject has just been implemented.
Both Ng and Lai, however, agreed on the need to further promote and improve Chinese history education. Education Minister Christine Choi cautioned that haste makes waste, as it would cause substantial changes to the overall system, such as the university admission mechanism and teaching resources. But she pledged to promote Chinese history. The Council passed an amendment suggesting that Chinese history be listed as an essential learning experience for secondary students instead of a compulsory subject. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
China's top diplomat is visiting Europe to shore up ties. The highlight of Wang Yi's tour is expected to be a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the Munich Security Conference. Sachin Kebi reports.
Paris was the first stop on Wang Yi's European trip. After meeting French President Emmanuel Macron behind closed doors, Wang held talks with Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna and stressed the importance of bilateral ties. He is reported to have told his hosts that China and France should continue championing free trade and improve bilateral links. China's top diplomat urged Paris to provide a level playing field for Chinese companies. He reiterated Beijing's impartial stance on the Ukraine issue and its commitment to promoting peace talks. There are high hopes that Wang will meet U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference tomorrow. China-U.S. ties worsened after Washington accused Beijing of sending a spy balloon over the United States. U.S. warplanes shot down the balloon, which China says was a weathercraft that had been blown off course. Wang will visit Italy and Hungary before stopping over in Moscow ahead of the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
A white supremacist teenager who shot and killed 10 blacks in the U.S. state of New York last year has been jailed for life without parole. Tears flowed during a dramatic court session in which the judge and lawyers spoke frankly about racism in the United States, while the harmful influence of the internet was laid bare. Joanna Ho reports.
The atmosphere in the courtroom in Buffalo, New York was somber and tense as relatives of Peyton Gendron's victims expressed their pain. The 19-year-old killed 10 blacks in a racist mass shooting at a supermarket in May last year. He pleaded guilty to domestic terrorism motivated by hate and blamed hatred theories online for his action.
I watched you kill my mom. I watched you on the internet. I watched you shoot her once, reload, and shoot her again.
Great person. Cat didn't hurt anybody.
Gendron was rushed out of the courtroom at one point when a man charged at him, while the sister of one of his victims denounced him. As relatives of the victims watched, the teenager apologized and urged white supremacists not to be inspired by his deeds.
I'm very sorry for all the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it. I believed what I read online and acted out of hate.
In handing down the sentence, the judge noted that racism in the United States has deep roots.
The harsh reality is that white supremacy has been an insidious cancer on our society and nation since its inception. This is the history that we have all inherited. We must acknowledge that history, recognize it, and learn from it, or we are doomed to repeat it.
The defense and prosecution also appealed for change.
Unfortunately, neither this proceeding nor any criminal trial can expose or address the historical racism that set the stage for our clients' horrible acts. We as a community need to have those conversations in our legislative bodies and our living rooms to achieve any sort of meaningful change.
Gendron shot 13 people during his rampage. 3 victims, 2 whites and a black, survived. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
More than a week after a powerful earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria, survivors are trying to salvage what they can and come to terms with the disaster. Fewer miraculous rescues have occurred, and more bodies are being pulled out from under the rubble. The latest relief efforts include setting up a makeshift hospital on a military ship docked at the southern Turkish city of Dortiol. The death toll is nearing 42,000, with most of the fatalities reported in Turkey. Hong Kong's jobless rate has declined for the 9th consecutive month, dropping to a 3-year low. In a 3-month period ending in January, unemployment in the city stood at 3.5%, down 0.1% from October to December. There were improvements in almost all major sectors, particularly retail, where the jobless rate dropped 0.4% to 4.2%. Labour Chief Chris Sun expects the job market to do better now that travel arrangements between Hong Kong and the mainland have returned to normal. Hong Kong stocks rebounded today, ending 4 sessions of losses, as investor sentiment improved over the mainland's call for stronger measures to boost consumption. The Hang Seng Index closed 0.8% higher on speculation of liquidity flowing south once again. The call to increase consumption sent e-commerce giant JD.com surging 5.2%. Standard Chartered finished 2.7% higher after the bank posted a pre-tax profit of $4.3 billion for last year and launched a $1 billion stock buyback. Bank of East Asia closed 1.7% lower after its net profit for last year fell 17.3% to $4.3 billion. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 175 points. Top 10 active stocks. Tencent gained $5.60. Alibaba gained $1.20. JD.com gained $10.60. Wuxi Biologics lost $2.60. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar. Euro at 8.40, British pound at 9.46, and the Australian dollar at 5.42. The London FTSE is currently up 14 points. Onto the weather now. Mainly fine and dry tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 15 and 21 degrees. It will get warmer during the weekend, with the mercury rising to 26 degrees on Sunday. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Good night.